Hello everyone, Jess with Emotional Fire Academy, and today we're going to be talking about the highly sensitive person in love. 5 tips I wish I would have known to save myself years and years of heartache and disappointment. So we're continuing on the theme of love this week. We're kind of having a more intimate bedroom session today. By the end of this video, you're going to have these 5 tips under your belt so that you can survive and thrive as a highly sensitive person in love, because it's important to do both. Love can be really intense for HSPs, and I know it has been for me. And take it from me, these are tips that I have literally had to learn myself through experience. I had heard them from other people, but until I went out in the world and lived them through truth, I didn't pay attention to them and didn't pay them any credence, and I would have, like I said, saved myself a lot of heartbreak. So I hope I'm helping you get ahead of the curve here with these 5 tips. So let's jump on in. So the first one, for any highly sensitive person in love, how do you thrive instead of just survive? You have to take responsibility for your own emotions. Like, that is the number one thing, because what that does, it keeps you empowered, right? It keeps you out of victimhood, because if you're always projecting what you feel onto the other person and never like owning it, then you don't feel like you have any control, right? You're constantly at the mercy of what they're doing and needing them to change and feeling totally buffeted around. So when you can take responsibility for those emotions and own up to them and be like, I feel this way because I have a trigger around, what my dad did to me or what my mom did to me or what, this experience when I was 5 years old with a bully or whatever. When you can own that, you always have a sense of empowerment. And that is super important to maintain when you're in love. Because when you lose that empowerment, when you give away your power to the other person, it becomes imbalanced, right? And that is how HSPs often find themselves in relationships with narcissists, because we give away our power, right? We want everything to be wonderful all the time. And so we kind of give it away in order to make the other person happy and neglect ourselves. And so that is an important thing to do. And if, between balanced, healthy relationships and then ones where the power is totally off, and that's the first thing we can start doing to bring things back into balance. And they have to be balanced in love, right? Because we're so sensitive to imbalances. So that's number one thing you can do. The second super important thing to do, which I am learning, this tip is really powerful for me right now too, is that to accept and enjoy what isn't perfect. So as perfectionism is a coping mechanism, I have used it most of my life, right? As a highly sensitive person, if everything is perfect, then it's safe. That's always how I felt things were, right? If it's perfect, it's safe, I'm safe, nobody's feathers are ruffled, my feathers aren't ruffled. And so retreating into this perfectionism, it doesn't work in relationships. It doesn't work when you're in love. Things are messy and they're sloppy and there's 2 people trying to come together with their own triggers. And so if you get caught in the idealist version of your love, your romance, it's going to start to cause a lot of pain. And you realize this when you're like, oh, if only he was this or she acted like that, I would be happy, right? Except if you can accept the imperfection in yourself and in somebody else and in the situation, if you can be like, okay, this moment isn't perfect and I accept that, and I'm not going to spend time ruminating over it afterwards, right? I'm not going to slip into the past and be like, oh, if only we hadn't had that fight, or oh, if only I had said this, or, in the future, like, it needs to be different. It needs to be, accepting things as they are, that imperfectionism. And you can't have light without dark, right? You can't have joy without pain. You have to, when you accept the pain, it makes the joy that much sweeter when it's around. So instead of just trying to always make it joyful, accepting the pain is doing just that. Then you make it joyful by accepting the pain or the discord or the imperfection of, you went to the park and there was no, something was missing, and you get upset about it. If you can accept that imperfection, you're way ahead of the game. That's a huge secret for HSP, especially for highly sensitive people, myself included. And I am actively doing this right now. So drop me a comment below. How do you embrace imperfection? Do you have any great tips or tricks? Let us all know. Tell us about a moment that wasn't perfect that you transformed with your acceptance. I would love to hear your stories. So number 3 tip that is really going to help you thrive in love and keep your balance is self-care does not stop. Self-care does not stop when you're in love. You can't, right? Love tends to overshadow our sense of self-care. It's kind of like, I'll take care of myself up while I'm single, and then when I meet someone, the love will keep me going. I've been guilty of this too. That is not the case, right? You have to prioritize yourself. At the end of the day, that sounds so selfish, but you have to prioritize you first, right? You have to keep your own cup full before you can fill someone else's. That is so true. Because if you don't fill your cup and then you're filling someone else's cup ahead of yours, it starts to build resentment. You might not even realize it, but you're setting a precedent for yourself and for the other person that's, you're more important than me. And then that sets that power balance off again that I talked about in the first tip. When the power balance shifts and you are always putting someone above yourself, that's not a good situation. Other imbalances will come from that. So self-care doesn't stop. Maintaining your self-care, put your own oxygen mask on before you help someone else, because if you pass out, you're not of no help to anyone. And that's kind of what stopping your self-care does to you. You don't put your own oxygen mask on and you start to gasp. You're going to feel yourself start to gasp. You're going to feel your body start to gasp. If you're not doing the things you were doing before, if you're not working out, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not eating well, sleeping well, loving on yourself, these things will catch up with you. And then that's going to cause these ripples out into the relationship. And it's going to start to feel a little icky and sticky and bad, because that's coming from the lack of self-care. So self-care, number 3, very, very important. Number 4, so learn how to communicate your truth. Learn how to communicate your truth in a relationship. When you're in love, again, it's easy to go to that perfectionism and to just say, yes, dear, everything is fine. Yes, honey, yes, I'm okay, when you're really not, right? That's being dishonest. So learning how to communicate your truth when you're in love happens on 3 levels: in your mind, in your body, and with the other person. And you have to resonate the same truth on all 3, right? You have to say in your mind, I love this person, I love you. Your heart has to say, I love this person, I love you. And then what you communicate to that other person is, I love you, right? It's all aligned. Because and it really starts with the words that you're using to yourself, right? How you're talking to yourself, how you're talking to the other person. The better you talk to yourself, the better you talk to the other person, the more those 3 different modalities can come into alignment of communicating consistently and clearly. And so when we have discord, again, between our heart and our head, or our, what we're telling the other person versus what we're really feeling inside, that again is going to cause ripples. It's going to cause ripples. It's going to taint the love, right? Because the other person can kind of sense, and we're sensing our own dishonesty with ourselves. So learning how to communicate your truth. This was important for me. I've just started noticing in myself and have been actively working on things like I get grumpy and if I'm not having one of my needs met. So instead of just saying, hey babe, I really need you to help me empty the dishwasher, I will go empty the dishwasher and bang the dishes around and be all grumpy and moody instead of just communicating my need. So learning how to communicate our truth is super important. And then number 5, the last tip I have for you is shifting our hypervigilance into our own bodies. So as HSPs, we're very hypervigilant. We're constantly scanning what the other person is doing, right? And looking for problems. It's that kind of insecure attachment tendency. If you can shift that hypervigilance into your own body, like turn it around and direct it into yourself, so that you're hypervigilant of, again, making sure that your mind, your body, and what you're communicating to the other person are aligned, so that you know what you're feeling, and you can be totally honest and authentic at all times. So that kind of takes the pressure off of the other person, that you're constantly like scrutinizing them and what they're doing and making sure it's okay. Is it okay? Is it okay? You know, that HSP kind of hypervigilant thing that we do. And it develops a more secure attachment style, because when you're hypervigilant of your own body and what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and you account for that, you're safe in yourself, right? And it ripples out into the other person. So these 5 tips, I hope they helped you. Let's review them real quick. 1, take ownership of what you feel. 2, accept what's not perfect. 3, self-care doesn't stop. 4, learn to communicate your truth on all 3 levels. And 5, shift your hypervigilance into your own body and mind. So what do you think? Did you like or dislike this video? Do you agree with what I had to say? Will these tips help you in the real world in love? Subscribe to my channel for new videos every week. I put out a couple new videos about being a highly sensitive person. And if you're ready to take your highly sensitive nature to the next level, if you're really having a hard time, or if you're in an imbalanced relationship that's making you crazy right now, I can help you with that. We can help you get aligned with yourself and bring back your HSP magic and start running bravely into life. So check that out. I have free consultations on my website, emotionalfireacademy.com. Have a wonderful day.